up and sit down.
Rightio. We are back with a new build. And it's going to be an interesting one for me because this got me first involved in the motorcycle racing scene. I'm a huge fan of Valentino Rossi. As many of you will know from the intro video, I built a Rossi bike whilst recovering from surgery. I never videoed the build itself because I didn't make video back then, but I did do a little intro video and the bike is on there. I will actually do a little shoot shortly of some previous builds and break them down into categories, but anyway, I'm waffling already. Slap. So anyway, without further ado, Suzuki RGA 500 rider. This is the Barry Sheene World Championship bike. Now, good looking bike and all of that lot. Nice bit of cover art on there. This is an old kit. I've had this since 1981. I was up in the loft recently and came across some old kits that I had laying about. That's where I found the E-Type that I had stripped in between house moves and things like that and children being born. Anyway, cut a long story short, I rediscovered some old kits. Now this one, I want to do a completely different livery on because I want to recreate the race that introduced me to the world of motorcycling, which was, pardon me, Barry Sheene versus Kenny Roberts at Silverstone in '79. I always remember it as a kid because Barry Sheene flicked a V at Kenny Roberts behind his back, and Murray Walker, being Murray Walker, bless him, interjected, "Oh look, Barry Sheene's waving at Kenny Roberts." And I can remember turning around and saying to my uncle that he didn't, he stuck his fingers up. And I was hooked. I was hooked. From that moment on, I found Barry Sheene, the typical London cheeky chappy, fantastic gentleman, motorcyclist, lovely bloke on and off the field, and God rest his soul, sadly departed at too young an age. Well, anyway, I've had that bike, and recently me missus got me the Kenny Roberts bike, which got me to thinking, I'm sure I had a Barry Sheene bike years ago, blah-de-blah-de-blah-de-blah. So I went on the hunt and found it. So that gave me the idea of the Sheene bike. And I had the Kenny Roberts bike. I didn't get the one with the rider. There is one available that actually has the rider Kenny Roberts on there and all the decals to go with his leathers. Well, I didn't get that version of the kit. So I've been out and bought an aftermarket straight run rider. And he comes without any decals whatsoever. So I'm going to have to build it and then recreate the Kenny Roberts livery leathers. So that's a nice little challenge. And I want to put these on a diorama, similar size to what I built for the bus. But I want to have Barry Sheene in front of Kenny Roberts with his hand behind his back, flicking the V's, and then out of the diorama have some speaker towers with some fake speakers, but you know, the old school rectangular conical speakers, and a little photocell in the front of the diode. So when you flick your hand in front of it, the commentary comes up with the bike sounds, and you've got Murray Walker going, look, Barry Sheene is waving at Kenny Roberts. And for me, it's just nostalgia. So hopefully you guys find it an interesting take on the normal sort of build a motorcycle, and there it is. Builds. I just want to recreate that because for me it was a pivotal moment in my life. I mean, as a 10-year-old boy, I discovered my passion and my love for motorcycles, and over the years I've followed all the racers: Rainey, Schwantz, Nick Doohan, Valentino Biaggi, Casey Stoner, Mark Marquez, etc., etc. But yeah, I think it'll be an interesting take on it. I'm really hoping it works out how I see it in my head. Just that little moment captured on TV. If you haven't seen it, go to YouTube, Google it, Barry Sheene versus Kenny Roberts at Silverstone in '79, and watch the race. And imagine yourself as a 10-year-old lad or 10-year-old girl watching that for the first time and just seeing the way everything unfolded. And like I say, I became hooked on it. So I'm going to build these together. I must be mad. I've got some work to do on the riders anyway, so I'll build them as well at the same time, but I shall get it to the point where both bikes are ready for primer. I shall build them in subunits and strip any chrome off that needs stripping off, get rid of that because I don't like it. Do a bit more research on the leathers of Sheene and Roberts so that I can recreate them and get the artwork downloaded and sized up. If I can get decals, I will. If any of you out there have a set of decals from the Kenny Roberts Yamaha that you can scan in and email me, I would be massively grateful, because at least then I've got something I can work with that's to scale. At the moment I'm having to use old photographs of Kenny Roberts, etc., to try to get an idea of what the artwork was on his leathers, and I'm trying to figure out the best way of recreating that. So if any of you have the Tamiya kit with the Kenny Roberts rider, I would be ever so grateful if you could scan the decals, chuck an email to Festa67's workshop at Gmail. The link is on my YouTube, it's on my Facebook page if you want to email me. I will be eternally your friend forever. I will make princess cooing noises and I'll give you a credit on the video. Decals kindly provided by Kaching. And if you have YouTube and Facebook, I'll gladly and happily put links up to all of that and give you a mention. So I'm going to start denubbing and cutting parts and all of that lot. So a lot of that I'll do over time lapse. I'll just move these out the way. Because what I tend to do, I have the hobby zone set up on my bench here with copious amounts of drawers, and then I cut the parts and I segment them into various cubby holes on here, so that when I go to build I can actually build quite quickly. So that's what I'm going to be doing on the screen. I'll speed up the video and play a bit of background music, but I'll be denubbing, sanding, etc. So it's literally set aside cutters, cutting off the sprue. I tend to go slightly away from the piece and leave a little nub, and then it's out with the sanding sticks. Various grades of sanding sticks that you can use to smooth everything out. So that's what I'm going to be doing. So you'll see my hands going 10 to the dozen. In case you wonder what I'm up to, that's what I'm up to. as for the instructions, there's the instructions for the Kenny Roberts build. So I'll be cutting off frame components and things and engine components. I'll probably build the frame, then the engine as complete units. I'll prime them, and then I'll go around doing any delicate touch-up paintwork with them. And as I'm working on this, I'll bring the instructions onto screen and show you what I'm actually doing. Okay, so that's that one. That's the Barry Sheene decals. As you can see, age has not been kind to them. Similar set. Build the engine up, build the frame up, so they'll be primed. The wheels will get primed. I'll make the front fork assembly, that will be primed. So then all I'll end up doing then is putting sub-assemblies on each bike. So those are pretty straightforward. The motorcycle rider, again, there's very few pieces. What the face inside the crash helmet is pretty much it. Join the legs together, join the arms together, and that's him built. So there's not a lot to him, but the detail on this is in getting the levers right, so that'll be primed as well. And then I'll come back and I'll attack the riders at the end stage. Once I've got the bikes where I'm happy, like I say, the riders can then be worked on. I've got to modify the Barry Sheene rider for obvious reasons. His arm is gripping the motorcycle. If I can find him. There he is. So his arms at the moment are relatively solid. Well, I've got to modify one of these so it's coming around behind his back so that he can give it some of that. So I should be heating that up. In the meantime, that is supposed to be Barry Sheene. Now, if you Google a picture of Barry Sheene, I think you'll find that that looks sod all like him. So I might smoke the visor on the crash helmet to conceal that a little bit. But anywho, I'll paint him up and see what he comes out like. So that's what we're going to be doing on that. Got all of the paint call outs and colours on the sheet. And the decals that were for this particular bike. Well, I'm not going to be using them because, as I said, I'm doing him as a completely different set of livery on there, which is probably just as well because the decals, as you can see, are really quite knackered. So whether or not I can save them, I don't know. I'll have a go. We'll see what we can do. So that's what I'm going to be doing. So without further ado, let's make a start on these. So I'll start with both the riders and start with those. So Kenny Roberts is going to be first, and it is literally cut them, a little bit of a nub, like so, straight in there, out of the way. Okay, so that's a left leg. Make sure that I get the halves correct for these. Yeah, that's a right leg, that's a left leg. Not actually tested the fit on these either. I'm expecting a bit of seam and stuff, but as you can see, they're not that bad. You know, huge seam right the way down the centre of his peg there, but I can get rid of that. That's no hardship. No hardship at all. So, get a lot of that. Make sure that that arm is correct, which it is. And that's pretty straightforward. Like that, torso, like so, front of the torso, so we do his arms like so, and then that then gives me his crash helmet. Beg your pardon. That's his visor. Leave the metal rod out. That's just to make a stand with, that is, but I won't be using that anyway because I've got a cunning plan on how I'm going to do that. And that's his face. So that is that ride done. So let's just move that out of the way. And come to Mr. Sheene. Young Barry, bless his heart. Here's a similar concept. Again, cutting a little away from the piece itself. And then I just check to make sure that I'm getting the correct leg with the correct part. So, I find this such an easy way of doing my kits now, because I can get a lot of the sanding and the monotony out of the way off camera or by time lapse, so that we can focus more on building the bike and the riders without pausing every 2 seconds to sand components. Seems to work for me anyway. And that'll be his arms. So once they're glued together, I can then figure out how I'm going to bend the arm round his back. Very, very tentative about doing it, because I don't want to wreck the parts. But it was such an important thing to do with the race. I think to not try is going to be quite criminal. So we'll have a go. That's all we can do. I've got to find his hands in a minute and all. So get his torso sorted. Like so. That. Then we got to find his crash helmet, which is over there. Done that in black on this one, which is ideal for me because it lets me determine which one's Sheene and which one's King Kenny. Young Mr. Sheene there. Let's slap his, his face in there and all. So that's both the riders in their component parts. Pretty easy, pretty straightforward. So I'm happy with that. All these orange bits used to be chrome. So we'll be stripping some more chrome as well for that. Need his hands, don't I? So let's cut the sprue with the hands on, away from everything. Because I've got to make that left hand go around his back and stick the fingers up. So I'll be doing a bit of modifying on that, I think. That's tank and fairing. That's predominantly engine. Bits and bobs and gubbins. That's the engine, that's the engine. That's chain, more engine. Front forks. Front forks. So all in all, we've got a fair bit of work to do on this. So, I'm up for the challenge, mate. This bike, I think it's going to fight me a bit, if I'm honest. Oh, if it does, it does. That's me chair breaking, in case you wonder. Note to self, repair chair. So, the riders are done. Yeah. I think on the Sheene we've got engine parts to go in, so put the engine parts for the Barry Sheene bike in that side. Take that out of there. Yeah, that's engine. That's engine. Like that. Because then I can do the same on the Roberts bike then. Slightly knackered, but see whether I can tidy them up. Now, which was the best way? Do I build the first bike and then build the second bike? yeah, change of plan. I'm going to build the Sheene bike first, then build the Roberts bike. Yeah. Otherwise, I'm going to get mixed up with bits and pieces. So yeah, we'll go with it. I think that will be the better option. That's tank fairing, mud guards, all of that, and then that will be frame. Like so. Yeah. Really? As we'll go with that. Like that. So without further ado, frame. Yeah, that's the safer option. Because then I know then that each bike that I'm making is going to be the same. Yeah. So we'll do that a simple way, I reckon. Simple ladder frame. Exhausts, swing arm. So. Exhausts going in there, right, so just wrestling that around like that, rather than just make my own life a bit easier by doing it like that. So that's that. Another set of pipes. Definitely do the Sheene bike first, because I can have the bikes built ready and everything ready for when I then come to do the decals. So all in all, I think that'll work out better. Some of these bits I'm not 100% sure what components they are. They'll take minutes to denub. Looks a bit brutal doing it this way, but like Christ, it can half save me some time. Because I end up then with a set of spros pieces that I can manage. Right, so that's going to leave me in the box some odd bits of sprue with nothing else really to worry about on them. Me tyres, me clear. Let's lose that one. So that's Sheene done. So I've got the bike ready and the riders ready, so I can sit and denub all of those quite contently in my own little way, doing no one in the harm whatsoever. No animals are going to be hurt in the process. I'll do all of that. Just sort out what I can salvage out of the decals, if anything. I might be lucky, but sometimes running a sponge over an old sheet of decals can help, as long as there's much of the paper off of them, and then I'm going to scan them for prosperity and see whether I can print my own, because I think these are going to be as much use as the proverbial chocolate fire gold. So, yeah. So I'm going to pause there, start a bit of denubbing. Bye for now. I'm not sure whether I recorded the first bit, so I'll start again, I can always edit it out. What I'm doing is I'm denubbing, but I'm gluing the pieces together as well as I go, because that way I can see whether any of them need additional work. Okay, so we can have a bit of music going in the background if needed, and yeah. Keep ourselves going. That's me banging the camera constantly, but that's what I'm doing. I'm just taking off the nubs, sanding anything down, and quickly just gluing the riders together, because at least then I can see what work I've got to do on them at this stage before I start primer and that. So they might need a bit of sprue glue or what on them, so just lets me see what I'm up against. And this is the Roberts rider, this one. So, I'll say the Roberts rider is a standard Tamiya kit, straight line rider that is going to be turned into Kenny Roberts. Liberal dosing all the way down this, because this stuff, this is the quick setting extra thin from Tamiya. It's pretty much the same as the MIG extra thin. One word of warning, it has got one hell of a smell to it, because it's very high in acetone. So open your window, or wear your mask or whatever, because you're breathing this stuff in for long periods of time, you might end up doing yourself a bit of harm. I mean, I'm a smoker, so I pretty much, set my stall out at a young age to abuse my lungs. But those of you that don't smoke or whatever, don't wreck your lungs with this stuff. Ventilate the room a bit, have your window open. Spend hours on end in front of the glue station, so to speak. Have yourself some regular rests. Just get away from the fumes for a little bit, because they are potent. And all I'm doing is I'm just going around picking out the seam, letting the capillary action do the work. But I'm also pinching the seam together so that a bit of the plastic does ooze out, and then I can go along with a sanding stick and correct any blemishes, imperfections as I go. But I find if you follow the contours of the leg as you're coming along, you can pretty much get the seam pressed into place. Like I just did there was a gap. But just by applying a liberal amount of glue, you can then sit and squeeze it, and it's just enough pressure that you're putting on, and it heats the plastic and melts the plastic, and then the plastic does the seam filling for you, just like that. So there's a little Roger along there. That's another leg done. Okay. I've got to remember on the Sheene rider not to glue his hands on until I've modified them. So if I forget, remind me, give me a prod, tell me off, go, wait, you've got to sort his arms out, yeah. Don't go gluing it on there yet, Wilkinson, because you've got to modify it. But that's the fun part. It's always the fun part. I like modifying things. I like messing around with kits, kit bashing, I think they used to call it. I don't know whether they still do. But you'd have a kit and you would create something else out of it. You know, that's how I used to get about. You know, I used to repurpose parts off of old kits onto different kits and do different things with cars and bikes and all kinds of stuff. So that's what got me into it. All in all, it's going together quite well. You know, so a lot of the scenes I can get rid of at this stage before we go to primer, and it's less work. There you go. It's another arm done.